Good afternoon, folks. This is Eugene Stacy with the podcast Auditory Lounge with Eugene Stacy. And we're going to ask you to sit back, relax, maybe pour yourself a glass of wine, or take the lid off your cup of coffee, depending upon when you're listening to this podcast, because we are going to review a book called The Strength of the Few, written by Mr. James Islington. Now, if you remember, we have done a book called The Will of the Many a couple of years ago. This is the sequel to that book, and this, again, deals with our main character, who is the narrator of James Islington's tales, Mal. This is a 14 or 15-year-old male main character, or as booktubers would say, he's our MMC, male main character. This time, this has to do with leaving his homeland to find out who is planning to murder his people and why. The question becomes, who is actually going to murder his people? And does the MMC, have to undertake what is called pseudonyms? Now, pseudonyms are names that are assumed. In other words, they're not real names. They're assumed names. The question then, does this have to use an assumed name, or can he use his real name for his journey? Find out all of these answers and more in James Islington's The Strength of the Few. Again, this is the sequel to the book Will of the Many. It's the second book in what James Islington is calling the Hierarchy series. Now, here come the ratings for this book. For plot point, you have 5 out of 5 stars. For book title, you have 5 out of 5 stars. For characterization, you have 5 out of 5 stars. For book genre, this is a fantasy book. I would consider it a high fantasy. And for book genre, you have 5 out of 5 stars. For book narrator, meaning the character, you have 5 out of 5 stars. And for overall book, including audio narration, you have 5 out of 5 stars. Now, keep in mind also that this is a Library of Congress book. It is not a commercial audio. Now, for anyone that is looking for a high fantasy, they would love this book. Anyone that is looking for a high fantasy with a bit of mystery would love this book. Anyone that is looking for high fantasy with twists and turns would love this book. And finally, any fantasy reader alone would love a book like this. This has been your host, Eugene Stacy, with the podcast Auditory Lounge with Eugene Stacy. And remember, folks, here on Auditory Lounge, your table is always ready.